just woken up and opened the shutters and the windows, and I can see the mountains.
It had been raining for days, so hard that the local wildlife had been queuing in pairs.
The frogs in the lake, the noisiest of the chateau's residents at over 60 decibels, had been loving the rain and wouldn't shut up about it.
Last night we had extraordinarily heavy rain, and I wasn't expecting it to be as heavy as it was. So I'm back out on the road outside the drive, and there's detritus everywhere. There's leaves and branches and things, and it sort of goes off that way and out into the field where the rain was pouring, but also it was pouring this way, and the rain has bunched up all those leaves up against our main gate and pouring in. So that ditch there must have filled up completely, was bubbling over the top. Of course, because the ditch ends there, there's no tunnel. There's no tunnel that goes across under the drive entrance. So it's pouring in. You can't really see on the video, but the driveway started to erode, so the gravel's built up against the gate there, and then it's just been cascading in and down the drive.
The first thing I did when Rory told me that there'd been a torrent of water cascading down our drive from the ditch on the hillside was to research how much it would cost to buy a wide pipe to join the two ditches together, and it was looking expensive. But one of our friends who has known the property for years said there must be a drain and it must have got blocked. And lo, she was right. Phew. So hopefully, now that the blockage has been cleared, this level of flooding won't happen again. In this episode, there will be water everywhere, some of it on purpose.
And we introduce a new feature, the first episode of Find of the Day with Jane. But first, this.
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
So we're ready to go?
Yeah, let's just start. Let's just start.
Can I go first?
Go first. Jane is going first.
So, here we are, drinking €3 fizz. It's actually very good.
You can't open with. So here we are. Welcome to Chateau de Pican. My name is Rory, and this is my wife Jane.
And this is my husband Rory, and myself Jane.
And this is myself Rory, and my husband Jane. We bought Chateau de Pican with all of its contents included. This is unusual, but the previous owner no longer lived in the country and just wanted to sell up. In the coming episodes, we will be introducing you in much more detail to the chateau, its many rooms, and even more treasures.
But first, let's get back to the aftermath of the storm.
Good morning. Here I am in our basement, and it's not a terribly large cave or cave or however the French pronounce it, but it's ours. And the other night we had torrential rain, and there's a little fuse box down here that links to the electric gate and the intercom at the front, and that was constantly beeping, as if somebody was ringing the buzzer. And obviously there was just rain getting into it, so I came down here and turned the fuse off because the rain was just cascading everywhere. And so I thought I'd pop back down this morning and have a look to see if there was any moisture down here. You know, we're below ground, etc. So I wanted to make sure that it was okay. And I'm just going to switch cameras. There is this much water down here. And to give you an idea, I'll go down to my wellies. It's about 8 inches of water at the deepest part. It gets a little shallower in certain parts, and then down over here is the deepest bit. Everything's floating. There's no obvious way, it's not cascaded in through any of the windows down here. I think it's groundwater that's somehow risen up through the concrete. Lucky these two boilers were already destroyed, because they'd certainly need replacing if they weren't.
Welcome to Jane's Find of the Day with Jane.
Hello and welcome to Find of the Day at Chateau de Pican. Whilst Rory is doing some dirty, not very fun stuff, I've been looking at potentially beautiful things, looking around the chateau, finding things. And Find of the Day is this seascape painting behind me. We had been walking around looking at things for quite a while, dimly aware of that, before we took any close interest and had a good look at it. Turns out it is signed, and the signature was decipherable, and it says Michael Zeno Diemer in the corner. So I was able to look him up, and he is very well known, particularly in Germany, for his seascape historic paintings. And I say historic. He was born in 1867 and died in 1939. So his paintings are contemporaneous with the age of the chateau, as far as we can work it out. But it seemed as though he also painted depicted warships that probably predated his life, or at least were going out of military use during his life. I find that quite interesting, wondering whether he actually saw these ships himself, whether he was working from drawings, or whether he imagined some of them, looking at other influences, other drawings or images or books. How did he come up with these images? I can only assume that he wasn't in a little dinghy nearby sketching away, that he had to imagine certainly the sea, probably the coastline, and possibly the ship, or he put it somewhere where it wasn't when he saw it, or maybe he imagined it himself, or he saw it in the dry dock, or we don't really know. But I think that's I find that quite interesting.
So, I do have a sump pump, so I'm going to get that down here, try and clear the water out as much as we can. Ultimately, I'm probably going to have a sump dug in here and have the pump permanently in place to try and get rid of the water, which is a bit frustrating. But there may be a better solution to that. I just don't know what it is at the minute, but yeah, we'll see how that goes.
We are drinking €3 fizz, and it's actually very good. Unlike on when we were filming Chateau DIY last year, when we weren't allowed to drink the fizz.
We weren't allowed to drink it. However, we would like to point out that we don't only drink budget fizz, we also drink the nice stuff. But this is actually very drinkable.
No, we mostly drink the budget stuff.
What was it you said about the wine the other day?
Which wine?
I don't know, some wine. We bought some wine.
I said it was drinkable.
No. Perfectly drinkable.
Perfectly drinkable. Perfectly drinkable.
That was the best thing you could say. Was this wine is perfectly drinkable.
Exactly.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
Welcome to our Chateau channel.
We're allowed to drink this now because it's one take.
Can I drink some?
And yes, and there's no continuity because we really don't care. It's just a stream of consciousness. Bunty's ready.
Yes, I don't know if you can see Bunty or not, but by the way, that dog is called Bunty.
And she loves being filmed and photographed. Unlike a lot of animals who get perturbed and shrink away, she loves it. She knows where the camera is and she wants to be on film.
Just like me.
Just like Rory, her daddy, who she loves the most in the whole wide world.
So very briefly before we go into what we've been doing this week, now the dust has settled. The first week was a bit of a hectic mess, and so we perhaps haven't introduced ourselves properly. So as we've previously mentioned. I'm Rory, and this is Jane, and we're drinking booze.
I'm Jane, and this is Rory, and we're drinking booze. I haven't had any yet, but...
Well, I'm drinking loads. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say.
Power.
I'd been messing around with the power for several minutes, wondering why the pump wouldn't start. Eventually, I worked out that the flood water wasn't deep enough to activate the float valve. So my sump pump is working. However, I need to find some way of tying the activator up, because I don't really want to stand here for the next hour whilst it drains the water.
It seems as though these pictures, the ones of these wooden warships, are what he's particularly known for, especially when the ship is just off the coast. And maybe he was in a dinghy sketching it, I don't know. He also famously did a very big battle scene from the early 19th century, which clearly he couldn't have been at that one, long before he was born. Whereas some of his contemporaneous paintings, like he did Zeppelins and people climbing up Mount the Eiger and things like that, they don't seem to be as collectible. So what we have is a painting by a Munich-born artist that is potentially quite collectible.
That window goes to the basement, and I've got this waste pipe coming out, running out into the garden, and it's squirting its water out there. The only problem is this might not be the best place for it, because it's now flooding the patio.
Did you want to say anything else about who we are and why we're here?
Yes, I did.
We don't really know. We don't really know why we're here, do we, darling?
We don't really know who we are.
We don't know who we are.
My name is Rory.
And I'm Jane. We've established that one. And we got married. We got married in January. And we came here.
We got married in secret in January.
It wasn't in secret. Well, we didn't invite everybody, not because we didn't like them, but because we couldn't afford to have two proper weddings.
We also didn't invite all the people we don't like.
That's true.
True, though.
We did invite a few people we don't like.
We didn't.
No,
Yes, we did. I said we didn't invite, but it's true. Some people there we don't like.
But mostly we didn't invite all the people who we love dearly, because our main wedding is going to be
here
next
at
year.
Chateau de Pican.
Yes.
Which is where we now live.
No.
Solution. I've run it round. Oh, well, doesn't look much like a solution now, does it? It was a solution 2 minutes ago. I have the solution. I've run the pipe down into the gullies that take away the rainwater. So that should hopefully rush off somewhere. Well, I assume it goes to the lake. While the cellar was slowly draining of water, I decided to get the jet washer out. Here in the Chateauverse, any mundane task can be made better with epic music.
Obviously had a look to see what it might be worth, and there's a spectrum, and I don't know where it would fall on that spectrum. I feel it would be, as a guess, I know nothing about the art world, my instinct tells me it would be middle to bottom of the value of his works. I may be wrong, of course.
How much is it worth? Stay tuned to find out.
Well, I'm about to jet wash the patio furniture that we brought at huge expense, 800 miles. I was determined to bring the patio furniture, and it needs a jet wash after getting a bit soggy over the winter. And then we'll be able to set up a nice table and chairs by the kitchen, so we can go out there and have al fresco lunches and things. And yeah, I'm wearing this rather fetching set of waders. In our old house we had a pond, and I saw some waders for sale, and they seemed particularly cheap, these waders. I was obviously not buying them for myself, but it turned out they were too small for Rory to wear, so they're just right for me. That meant I was supposedly going to go into the pond and dig out all the yucky stuff in the pond, and no doubt I'll be able to do it here as well.
Whilst Jane's jet washing merrily in the background, I'm getting my tomatoes in the ground. The sun is baking, and that's barely the start of it. The next couple of days is going to be what I consider a huge heat wave. It's going to head up towards about 30 degrees. So I'd like to get the tomatoes in the ground first so they can enjoy all that lovely sunshine and start growing and producing me some lovely tomatoes. I'm not used to growing that much really, but tomatoes is one of my favourite things because they're easy to do. And you know, they say to live the proper French life you've got to grow your own produce, and everything's a bit slower and easier. And, you know, on a Sunday the shops don't necessarily open in the same way they do in the UK. So I'm growing produce. I'm trying to take a step back and take life easier. And we'll see how that works out for me. One more to do. I don't know if you can hear all the insects and the birds now that the jet washing has stopped. Now it's started again. There's something nearby that sounds like a tiny helicopter. Oh, a little crickety thing. I can see it's right there. Well, you won't be able to see it, but it's right there. It really is a lovely place around here. You're very lucky. Very lucky indeed. Not only was it huge amounts of luck that we actually got the place when the first buyers who were ahead of us had to pull out for personal reasons. And then we were in a competition with another set of buyers, and we somehow won that beauty pageant. And so here we are. We finally moved in, and gosh, with the applying for visas and all of that, we're by no means out of the woods yet. There's still plenty of red tape and Lord knows what else to go through before we're full permanent residents. But staying positive, I think, will help a lot. Don't let it get you down. And keep planting tomatoes. We've got cucumbers as well. One cucumber, because, you know, we don't want to be inundated with cucumbers. And we've bought some peppers as well, so hopefully we'll have some lovely peppers. they go with virtually anything. When one is eating healthily, as obviously we are now we live in France, because I'm led to believe that cheese and baguettes are about the healthiest thing you can eat, especially when accompanied by wine. That's what I believe, and I'm sticking to it. Oh. Okay, so 6 tomato plants planted. They've got a little bit more growing before I can really spiral them around their spirals. But I've pinched out all of the little extra growths for now. So good watering and they're done. Gardening corner over for now. The moment that perhaps none of you have been waiting for.
Having looked at some of the works and tried to work out which ones were the most valuable. Some of them have got very spectacular lighting, or maybe there's a storm going on, or there's something really interesting, maybe a ship and something else, and those I think are the more valuable ones. To me, this one seems more simple, but it's still classic because it's a 3-master, it's just off the coast. There is a little bit, it was quite an interesting cloudscape, but it's not a stormy cloudscape. So I think in my amateurish perspective, I would guess that this would be, as I say, middle to low in terms of his painting values. But please correct me if this is wrong. And I believe they tend to go in Germany primarily from about 2,000 euros to about 12,000 euros. So it's a lovely find. So this is find of the day.
So, without further ado, let's get to it.